I know that your thinking is, there's a huge gap in defense tech. You've got, the establishment, the military-industrial complex, the big, clunky legacy companies, which are incestuous and probably not as efficient as they could be. And that's meant a lot of gaps that companies that you've invested in are hoping to fill. So this is a sort of more a VC and private enterprise model that you're talking about here. How does that stack up against the weight, the scale, and potentially the might of China putting the resources of the entire state behind all their defense tech and whatever they manage to innovate?
That's a really great question. We debate a lot about this at the Pentagon. The model that we use in the U.S. For procurement and how money is spent in defense. And the U.S. still spends by far the most money in the world, way more than China, right? But the model we use in the U.S. is actually very top down. It's very much, in some ways, like the Chinese, where it was built in 1961. It was built at a time in the U.S. when we thought the Soviet Union was going to pass us. If you look at any economic textbook from that time, Samuelson was the top textbook. It said that the Soviet Union is going to have a bigger GDP in the next 10 to 15 years. Everyone thought you had to be top down to be the best. And it turns out that for a lot of areas, you want to let the best ideas come from anywhere, and you want to bring them in, and you want to partner with them. And the U.S. still has the biggest advantage in the world versus any other country, that more of the top people want to come here, and more of the top technology is being built here. And if we can figure out how to help the Pentagon partner with that top talent and make it open enough where there's competition, where the new stuff can come in and compete, we're still going to be way ahead of China. And the danger of the U.S. is if we apply that Soviet model, we apply that top-down model, and try to have just the people running the Defense Department deciding who to work with, it's not going to be nearly as strong as if you bring in technology cultures and expose the technology cultures in the U.S. to partner. And so that's what we're trying to do, the latter.
Joe, speaking of the Chinese, we've seen the introduction of the digital yuan. Central banks around the world are really trying to impose their own digital currencies in challenge to the current cryptocurrency model. Do you think that there's going to be, in, say, the next couple of years, a weaponization of these central bank currencies, and to the detriment of not just the regular folk, but also when you're dealing with the US being the reserve currency?
This is a great question. I'm bullish long-term on cryptocurrency. I'd have to say I'd be very, very careful in the next few years in a tightening environment, by the way, but I'm bullish long-term. I think decentralizing money and not having governments in charge of it is a very good thing for the world. I'm very scared of the push in the West to try to copy the digital currency ideas. And, if you imagine what's going on in Canada right now with turning off bank accounts, whether or not you agree, imagine somebody you disagree with in power who can then turn off your money anytime they want if they say you said something or did something wrong, or if you're somehow tied to people that they've been declared an emergency against. So I think as an anti-authoritarian, as someone who believes in the values of the U.S. and the values of liberty, it's extremely important to me that we find a way to keep the dollar from having a centralized digital currency. So I disagree strongly with what Janet Yellen and others are doing there. And then B, for the whole world, yes, I think it'd be great if we can keep crypto or keep a free non-digital dollar competing somehow. I think it's probably going to have to be digital eventually, which means it's probably hopefully going to be a non-state controlled cryptocurrency, and that's a big battle.